Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we're back for Vampire Counts Faction Focus, now looking at the rare units, seeing how they looked in the Warhammer 8th edition book and how they might play in Warhammer The Old World. Without further ado, let's see which unit is first. And it is the Varghulf. Stats-wise, above average movement, weapon skill, toughness, wounds and attacks. It is a monster after all. Low initiative and leadership, no equipment, and it comes in a unit of 1. So yes, it's undead, but it is also vampiric, which means it can march. It has hatred, causes terror, and has regeneration. And its special rule is Bestial Fury. So for combat results, Varghulf have no flanks or rear. Not the best looking model, though, I have to say. To be honest, I never used this model. Overall, it's not bad. It's got reasonable stats. I just didn't like the look of the miniature, and there were lots of such other good choices in the very points-restricted rare category, and that were both better in terms of aesthetics, but also rules. And that's why, to be honest, I never used this unit. Next up, Blood Knights. This is an iconic Vampire Count unit. Above average movement, weapon skill, strength, initiative and leadership, but the wounds aren't great and nor are the attacks. They do come, however, with hand weapon, lance, barding, heavy armor and shield. This is a truly heavy cavalry elite unit. Unit size is 4+, and they did get a full command. They got the undead rule, but of course they are vampiric. They get frenzy. Now that can be really helpful in increasing that damage output. The martial honor, however, meaning they must always issue and accept challenges, which sometimes can be good, sometimes can be bad. Blood Knights are a tricky unit. The lore's cool, they look cool. The damage output for a heavy cavalry unit, it's solid. And they do also get a special banner, though, at 75 points. That gives them a 4+ ward save against ranged attacks. They've got a good chance of getting these guys in combat. However, they're expensive. They're 50 points a model, and they were, at the time, ferociously expensive to buy, while also being in a category with other excellent choices, and in a meta that doesn't favour cavalry. So I would say that I did take these guys, but really when it was for the rule of cool, rather than for the best pick for points as a rare unit. And as you can see here, this is for the old unit. Ferociously expensive unit. This is the modern unit, done for Age of Sigmar not that long ago, in fact. And to be honest, you can see the influences. You can tell these guys are Blood Knights. They look really cool. They're actually cheaper. When does that ever happen? Games Workshop, holy potatoes. These guys, they look great and could easily be rebased as Blood Knights for a Vampire Counts army in Warhammer The Old World. They do come with a cool banner as well. So, if this banner is in the rules going forward, you kind of got one there that's specific to the Blood Knights. So, rule of cool. Absolutely. If cavalry is more impactful, these guys could suddenly jump up the priority in choices. Because they are elite heavy cavalry, with good rules, these guys will absolutely wreck what they hit, even with the points cost they've got, you are paying for it, but they would be a good choice to take. So be interesting to see how the old world rules pan out when it comes to cavalry that could make the Blood Knights the pick of the bunch. Next up, Cairn Wraiths. Hang on a minute, we saw these guys in Heroes. Well, you can actually field these guys as a unit. So above average leadership, low strength, toughness and attacks. Equipment, great weapon, which is Cairn Wraiths only, and we'll come on to why that is. Unit size is 3 to 10, and that's because the Tomb Banshee hero we saw can be included as a champion for the unit. Special rules, same as the heroes. So the Cairn Wraiths get the Chill Grasp one, everybody gets Terror and Ethereal, and the Tomb Banshee, if you take one as a champion, does get the Ghostly Howl. And what I've done here is I've put the older style, so these are the classic style of Cairn Wraith and Tomb Banshee, as opposed to the new ones we saw in the hero area. Essentially, it is a unit of heroes at 50 points per model, which sounds great, but overall, there are just better choices in the rare category. And, they really need a unit of 10 because they're now rank and file. They need that unit to be bigger, to be really effective in 8th edition. That's 500 points, right? And that's just a non-starter with what else is in the rare category, as we'll come on to. So, again, just better choices, far too expensive for what they actually were able to output on a table. And so, yeah, I never took these guys. Next up, we've got one of my favourite models, which is the Black Coach. Average stats, movement, strength, toughness and wounds, low weapon skill, initiative and leadership. There's our theme. But equipment-wise, it is a chariot with an armour save of 3+. It's got a Cairn Wraith as the crew, and it's drawn by 2 nightmares. Unit size of 1. Yes, it's undead, but it's also vampiric. Okay, check. Terror. Chill Grasp for the Cairn Wraith, so you can do that. It comes with a 4+ ward save. That's pretty nice for a large model. And its main special rule is this Evocation of Death. Basically, the way that worked, in each of the owning player's magic phase, you roll all the d6 that are in the power dice pool. And every 6 that you roll increases the coach's power from 1 to 6. So in order, that would give you +1 impact hit. And this is cumulative, so it stays through the whole game. So you start off with +1 impact hit, then you get +1 strength. Then it gets killing blow. And that applies to all its attacks. The impact hits, everything. And flaming. And then it goes to magic resistance of 2 and Strider. Then it becomes ethereal, while also having a 4+ ward save, and then it can fly. Okay, so again, it's another rule of cool model. That's not a terrible choice. While it could be swingy, and that's the problem, is the swinginess of it. If you don't get the power-ups, it becomes mediocre. If you start getting those power-ups, man, it can become a beast. You're charging the impact hits. So you really need to charge to get those impact hits and get its points back. Sometimes in the tabletop in the 8th, there were 195 points. It was often edged out by Mortis Engines and Terrorgheist, though people that had a bad experience with the Mortis Engine, and you'll see that in a bit, might switch to the Black Coach instead. You can see here, this is the original model. That actually looked really cool. Back in the 8th edition, this was actually a really cool looking model. Very, very nice indeed. This is the new one that is in the Nighthaunt. Still actually looks really cool. And you can see they've taken the aesthetic, looks really nice. The one interesting thing with this one is the size difference. This model is huge in comparison to this one. This one's actually quite small. If you look at these are the old style horses, it's not that big. This thing is ginormous in comparison. So how well that will work as a swap in and out, I don't know. In reality, if it's as big as this, it should get the large target rule, which means you couldn't give it cover. So we'll see how that pans out, and if it's even included in the rules. But it should do. It's really, really cool, and it's so flavorful for the vampire counts. Love to see it. Really different as well. The whole powering up of it as well, I think, is really cool. It's different. I like it when you get units with these different mechanics that give you something cool and fun to play with those mechanics that can also be good from a rules perspective. And the Black Coach was definitely in that category. Next up is the Terrorgheist. This is the dual kit with the Zombie Dragon. So above average movement, strength, toughness and wounds, low weapon skill, initiative and leadership. Equipment wise, none, but you could take 2 upgrades. One is Infested, which when it's killed, every unit in base contact takes 3d6 strength 2 hits. Now that's friend or foe. Or you could take Rancid more and give it poisoned attacks. So it causes terror, it flies, large targets you'd expect, and it has regenerate. Okay. It is undead and not vampiric, so it can't charge unless within 12 inches of a general. But Death Shriek, 8 inches shooting attack, 2d6 plus its remaining wounds, and each point it exceeds the target's leadership by causes 1 wound with no armor save. So it's basically like the Ghostly Howl from the Tomb Banshee, except instead of 2d6 plus 2, it's 2d6 plus remaining wounds. So it can be a little bit more potent and quite nasty against heavily armored targets. So I actually saw quite a few of these in the tabletop. They were quite popular. It was often in my army list as well. Death Shriek ability is good. Given you can fly, you can really pick the right target, whether you want to Death Shriek a heavily armored unit and then charge into maybe an archer unit that's a bit more lightly armored. So you can really put it where it's needed. It's reasonably tough. Toughness 6 wounds, nothing to sniff at. And the damage output for 225 points was just okay. However, I often would take Infested. You do the Death Shriek, you get some combat in, and then if you do end up charging it at a tough unit, you get that extra damage on its destruction, hopefully away from your units. 3d6, strength 2 hit. Strength 2 not the best, but 3d6, if you rolled hot, that could be quite a lot of extra attacks and may completely wreck a unit. And also, it's great at wrecking rear lines of archers and war machines, a bit like the Varghulf. It's vulnerable to those same war machines, so, taking those out that give them the shooting attack and then following up with a charge could be incredibly nice. So a pretty good unit, as with any flying monster. Always something that an enemy general is going to take his attention, and even if it ends up dying, it's still going to do some damage when it goes. And finally up, we have another one of my rule of cool units, and there are a few, as you can see here in the vampire counts, but this one was also cool. This is the sister model in the dual kit of the Coven Throne that we saw earlier, known as the Mortis Engine. Above average movement, toughness, wounds and attacks, low weapon skill, initiative and leadership. There you go. Equipment wise, you get hand weapons. It's a chariot with a 5+ armor save. The crew's a corpse master, but you also get a banshee swarm, and it's drawn by a spirit horde. May take the blasphemous tome, which is +2 to casting within 12 inches of Lore of Vampires. However, any miscast, friend or foe within 12 inches must roll twice on the miscast table, which kind of sucks. Unit size of 1, and essentially it has a champion, which is the Necromancer on it. Special rules wise, it's got a few: undead, terror, large target, regeneration, all that usual stuff. Spectral steeds, movement only. The random attacks, as we saw from the Coven Throne. The Banshee Swarm can do Ghostly Howl, so you do get the 8-inch shooting attack, which is quite good, as we saw with no armor save. But its main thing is the Reliquary, which is 2d6 plus the turn number is the range of the dark aura that comes out from it. Now, that dark aura, what does it do? Well, all enemy units take d6 strength. D6 strength the turn number hits. So d6, if you're on turn 4, strength 4 hits, and that's every unit within that dark aura range. All friendly units improve regeneration by 1 point to a maximum of 4+, which is quite nice. And if you don't have regeneration, you would get regeneration 6+. So you could put regeneration 6+ on Graveguard, on zombies, on skeleton warriors, and in a unit that's in an army that's all about attrition, this is really good to give some extra durability to those tar pity units. However, if you do roll a double on that 2d6 for the Dark Aura, you do get 1 wound to your Mortis Engine. And the big kicker is when it dies, all units, friend or foe, within 12 inches plus the turn number, so turn 4, that's a 16-inch range, take 2d6 strength the turn number hits. So it's a real interesting unit. I did often take this fickle unit because sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. The buffs on it are great, right? That ability to give the dark aura, they're giving the regeneration, that's really good. And it could do a reasonable amount of damage. You've got the ghostly howl from the Banshee Swarm, causing terror. That's all great. And the +2 to casting. So it's kind of this odd unit that you need to kind of keep in the middle of your army behind the main line, try and keep it alive, and then as you get to the end of the game, try and almost run it off somewhere. Bearing in mind it does have ethereal for movement. Try and run it off somewhere and get it to die, where it would then blow up and do huge amounts of damage to an enemy army. So you've got things like if you've lost a flank near the end of the game, you could maybe run it off into that flank. Hopefully it dies and wipes out a whole bunch of enemy units there. Now, that could be game-changing. If those units take enough damage and they flee, that could be quite game-changing. So it's a really interesting unit. Again, this is a type of unit I like. It's got interesting mechanics that aren't always going to go your way, but could be game changing. It's got good enough buffs that you really want to take it despite the downsides. And for me, that's a really good set of rules, is if you've got something that you go, this has got some negatives, but it's got such positives that I'll take the chance. Though sometimes when it didn't go your way, that's when I said earlier, maybe you've had a bad experience with your Mortis Engine, you might put it to one side and take a black coach instead. But there you go. That's the Mortis Engine. Again, a pretty rule of cool model. You can see it there, still available today to pick up. I'd say it's a dual kit with that Coven Throne. That brings us to the end of the Vampire Count rare units and the end of the main part of the army list. We do have legendary lords and heroes still to come for the sake of completeness, though those are unlikely to be in the old world, mainly because they're probably already dead or in hiding. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, hit that subscribe button. It's free and it means a lot, so thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Hour. Tune back in for our legendary vampire counts.